we played the back and forth from Cowboys owner Jerry Jones and their star defensive player Micah Parsons, because the saga continues. The number 12 overall pick in the 2021 draft is entering the final year of his rookie contract and has been one of the best players at his position since he stepped into the league. He's made the Pro Bowl every year of his career. Earlier this week, Stephen Jones had this to say to folks who think the Cowboys have been dragging this deal out with Micah. Take a listen.
We don't drag deals out. We do deals when there's an opportunity to do a deal. And certainly no one knows what goes on internally with a particular negotiation. But, sometimes agents and players aren't ready to pull the trigger till they see other cards play. Mm-hmm. And what we're not going to do is go out and, do something that's not responsible in terms of, just in the name of getting a deal done 1 month earlier. Go do it.
All right, Adam, we hear a lot, but you actually know what's going on. What's the latest with this Micah situation and the Cowboys? Are we close to a deal? What's happening?
There's been this sense and expectation that a deal for Micah Parsons in Dallas was inevitable, that it would get done at some point this offseason, this summer, before the season began. But if you listen to what everybody is saying, from Stephen Jones there to Jerry Jones to Micah Parsons, nobody has expressed a tone of optimism. And there's a reason for that. The two sides haven't had discussions, not only in weeks, but in months. Because I think you heard Stephen Jones say, we don't drag deals out. We do deals when there was an opportunity. The Dallas Cowboys thought there was an opportunity in late March and early April where they thought a deal would be getting done. And it didn't get done. At that point in time, Micah Parsons said, the deal has to go through my agent, when Micah and Jerry had been talking. And after that, talks died down. You heard Jerry Jones say, we've done deals with players that have been hurt, missed time. That's not something a player wants to hear. You heard Micah Parsons say, if they don't want me here, they don't want me here. I'll go about my business. You can't get a deal done when there's no conversation. They are further from a deal today than they were in late March. We are now 5 weeks from the opener, 35 days from tonight. The Dallas Cowboys are in Philadelphia to play the Eagles. Unless the two sides start talking, unless the two sides figure out a way to bridge their differences and get their hurt feelings out of the way, this is going to be interesting to see what happens and how Micah Parsons handles this. But the idea that a deal was inevitable and a formality needs to be dismissed right now. We'll see where this goes. Things can change quickly, but they are nowhere today. Nowhere, as RC can attest.
And that's the other part that Adam's saying, though. There aren't conversations taking place. Whenever you have a player of this magnitude and a deal of this magnitude, there's normally a ton to work out logistically, but you understand that it's going to get done. This is, and Stephen A. knows so much about basketball, this is SGA getting the Supermax. You know exactly what the numbers are because we've seen what T.J. Watt has received. We saw what Myles Garrett has received. And Micah Parsons is younger than those players and also as productive and as meaningful to his team. For the conversation to have gone from we're in a good place, we don't need agents to do this deal, to Micah Parsons saying out loud and publicly, if they don't want me, then I will go about my business. This is equivalent to being in a relationship and having to say, you know what, you don't have to kick me out. I'll pack my own bags. And Micah Parsons now, as he prepares to play a season, the Dallas Cowboys, as they prepare to compete in the NFC East, could be headed down the road where on Thursday night versus the Philadelphia Eagles, Micah Parsons is not in pads because he doesn't have a deal. I thought that to be an impossibility early on this offseason.
And let me say this before we get to Stephen A. You're saying we know the numbers. They're the Supermax numbers like SGA. And that is true. Micah Parsons is one of only 2 players in NFL history with at least 12 sacks in his first 4 seasons, with the other being Reggie White. But we also know these numbers, Ryan. He's under contract this year for $24 million. The Cowboys could tag him after this year for about $30 million. So the Dallas Cowboys could and would argue that they control Micah Parsons contractually for the next 2 years to the tune of $54 or so million.
Y'all were conversing with one another until Micah Parsons brought his agent into the equation, and since that time, there have been no talks. We all know Jerry Jones to be an adroit, highly skilled, very successful businessman. That's his lane. And players, this is where corporate America really, really infuriates you. Executives want to cultivate a relationship with you just like you as a talent want to cultivate a relationship with players. But you don't want to do it at the expense of being at a decided disadvantage. So on one hand, it's incredibly important to cultivate that relationship, work it out in terms of recognizing who each other is and your level of communication with one another. But it's also understanding your lane. They wouldn't hesitate as businessmen to say to you, this ain't your lane. Step back. Let us handle this in any other situation. But suddenly your contract comes in the fold and Jerry Jones don't want to talk to the businessman. He wants to talk to the player. You know, you want him out of position. We gotta rebut that. We've got to really, really challenge that and say that's not right. That's unfair to Micah Parsons, number one. Number two, we got to also pay attention to what's unfair to Micah Parsons from the standpoint, Micah Parsons wanted to sign a deal earlier. If Jerry Jones and the Cowboys had signed him earlier, they would have had cap maneuverability. Adam Schefter, that's your lane, far more than mine. Educate me if I'm wrong. But that's my understanding of it. And so when you look at it from that perspective and you say, you could have done easier, but business could have been better had you addressed this earlier. Plus, you got a guy in Micah Parsons who's a stud and a star. Even missing 4 games last year, he was still top 5 in sacks. And you got a guy that was on the record saying, I want to be here. Yeah. And you got a guy that was on the record over a year ago saying, I'll come for less. You can get me for less now. I want to be a Cowboy, so long as the deal is fair. Yeah. Jerry Jones has had ample opportunity to sign this young man, okay? And then you didn't do it. You didn't do it with CeeDee Lamb until the last minute. You didn't do it with Dak Prescott until the last minute. Cap maneuverability was compromised because of those things, and they still want to bloviate him and Stephen Jones, acting like they're doing everything right, and it's the fault of the player. This is where it's problematic. And then I thought about it, I did some research, Adam and RC, and I'm sure y'all will appreciate this. I'm just looking at this, because the Dallas Cowboys ain't been in the Super Bowl since 1996. We all know this, right? It's been 30 years, right? No Super Bowl appearance, no NFC Championship game appearance, right? Do y'all know that since last playing in the Super Bowl following the 1995 season, only the Ravens and the Chiefs, 27 and 24 respectively, have had more different players earn first-team All-Pro selections than the Dallas Cowboys? So if you're looking at the Dallas Cowboys, here's what Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones are looking at. We're doing our job. We're doing our job. Look at the players that have been first-team All-Pro for us. They don't take into account coaching. They don't take into account culture. They don't take into account the culture that they create and how that serves to inhibit their ability to be as successful as those aforementioned franchises. Why do I say that? Because the Ravens have 2 Super Bowl championships since 1995. The Chiefs have 3. In terms of Pro Bowl selections, the New England Patriots had about 23 different players, okay? But they got 6 Super Bowl championships to show for it. The Dallas Cowboys don't even have an appearance. But they will walk around convincing everybody that because of those 23 first-team All-Pro selections, that they're doing their job. They are not. And America needs to understand that.
RC, if the Cowboys were to let Micah walk, what would that mean for them moving forward?
What that means to me is that you aren't trying to compete for a championship right now. If the Dallas Cowboys decide that this is the time that they want to stand on business, then the Dallas Cowboys and their executives are derelict in their duties. Your job is to draft, develop, and retain the best players. Well, you got Micah Parsons as a slot in the draft where he was available to you and shouldn't have been. So you made the right decision. You drafted the players. And then you developed him. He started as an off-the-ball linebacker. He moved on the ball to become a rush in. And now he's one of the most prolific in the history of the game. And so now you get to take the next step and do the right thing, which is retain Micah Parsons and find a way to build around him. Now, here is where you messed up. You messed up because you had that opportunity opportunity last year. And if you do that last year, when Nick Bosa is being paid around $34 million a year, you don't have to get to this point and think to yourself, we're going to have to pay upwards of $42, upwards of $43 million a year.